Hey everyone, welcome to another movie review. Recently we did, well not recently, but a couple of months ago we did Star Wars, and then recently I did Uncut Gems by myself, and now we're here to review 1917. I've actually seen this movie twice in theaters. That's how much I liked it. So Jason and I went last night to see it for my second time and his first time. He made some notes. I've got some notes. This is going to be a spoiler-ridden video, so if you have not seen the movie, you should probably skip this video for now, but then go see it and then come back, because we'd like to hear your comments down below, because I've seen some mixed reviews on online. I really like it, just broadly, just straight up statement. I really liked it. It's probably one of the best movies I've seen in a couple of years. Quickly, what's your opinion, maybe?
It's probably my favorite war movie I've seen in quite a long time.
Yeah, that's a very fair statement, because if you look back, there's some amazing war movies, even back to the 70s and like Tora, and there's all kinds of amazing war
The
movies.
Enemy Below.
Yeah.
Submarine
you and your submarine movies.
Yep.
So just a couple quick facts about this movie. The director was Sam Mendes, and it stars Dean Charles Chapman, who plays Blake, and George McKay, who plays Schofield. And I mean, there are other actors and actresses in the movie, obviously, but if you know anything about this movie, if you've already seen it, if you haven't seen it and you're still watching it, just so you know, there's only two main characters, and the rest are fairly insignificant, with very little airtime, very little dialogue, and really, it's not. I'm not trying to discredit them, but there's only two actors in this movie.
There's not really a whole lot of dialogue, period, in this movie.
Not really.
There's not a whole lot of character building.
There's character development of two people, and just absolute snippets of some others that you see for maybe at most 5 minutes on screen. So the other people in the movie, other than the two main characters, are really insignificant. That's obviously probably intentional by the director and the script. And
why don't we give a recap of the movie in general, just for the people who haven't seen it, who are watching anyway, just because they like watching videos.
What do you mean?
So, like, what the point of the movie is.
Oh, yeah. That's probably the better way to start.
Because, I mean, they know it's a war movie, but I didn't necessarily know what the movie was about when I went into it either.
Right. So this takes place in April of 1917 in France, and in World War I, and the Allies have a trench line, and the Germans have a trench line. And the entire premise of the movie is that the Allies gain information that the Germans have moved back their trench line, which means that the Allies can move forward. Not everyone believes that information, so there's an attack that's going to take place on the German front line on, I don't know how many miles away. It doesn't really tell you the distance from where the boys start in the front of the first of the movie to where they end. But basically they have to get a note from the commander or whatever to the other side of the front line, and they can't contact them via phone because the lines are cut. So they physically have to sneak.
Did he say it was 17 miles? Does that sound familiar to you? I think he said it in the movie.
I watched the movie twice and I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Because I remember he was asking if he thought he could make it. I guess maybe they were just looking on the map and said, do you think you can make it? Maybe
how long is it going to take you to go from here to here? And he said, I'll be there by tomorrow or whatever, or nightfall or something. But
the premise of the movie is there's one group or one battalion or squad, or I don't know what the correct word is.
I don't know.
Anyway, they think that the Germans retreating is them on the ropes, so they're going in on an attack thinking that they're going to finish them off, when in fact they actually have this huge fortified new trench or new front set up, and they're going to get slaughtered. So the whole point of the movie is these two guys that you meet at the first of the movie, they're sent a mission, just the two of them, to go in and warn that group not to attack. Yeah,
the Germans are kind of playing a little bit of... They're trying to bait the Allies into attacking. They draw their line back, they reinforce with a bunch of troops, and then the Allies are supposed to think that they had them on the ropes, and they attack. And that front line that's going to make that attack is 1,600 men strong. I think it was like 4 battalions or whatever that was, or whatever.
And the key to these two guys is one of the guy's brothers is in there on the first wave.
Yes, Lance Corporal Blake's brother is on the other side. So that's, I don't know, I assume that's why he was picked, because he has the best incentive to get to his brother, to stop him from attacking.
They basically said, you're good with maps, but I think it was the family, because even the other guy, Schofield, was like, let's think about this. Why are we doing this? And I think if you would have taken two people that both had no need or
emotional
desire.
investment.
Yeah, like
either soldiers, but I mean, are they really emotionally invested to get
because
there as quickly as possible?
Blake was just focused 100% on no, we're going. I'm going to get to him. I'm going to
gotta save my brother. So there was right away there was an emotional connection, and you were rooting for him right away without even really knowing him at that point, because he got that information or that assignment maybe 4 or 5 minutes into the movie, or maybe less actually. So.
But that's the premise of the movie.
It's the entire.
It's the journey of following these guys to get to that front line.
Exactly, and they don't actually know if the information that they have is correct, so they're still sneaking and stuff, and they don't know where the Germans are exactly, and they're just trying to make it. So that's the broad scope of the movie without any spoilers. Now, before we get into some spoilers, I have some facts for you, and they're about the movie production. It was all filmed in England and Scotland. So even though it takes place in France, none of the movie was filmed in France. I have no issue with that. I don't care where they filmed the movie. An incredible amount of work, set design went into the movie. The trenches that they actually had to dig.
That's on my notes for things. Was the sets were amazing.
It's unbelievable.
It's like I don't know what it was like, but I feel like I know what it was like.
Yeah, now. You feel like you're right there. I have one gripe a little bit, but I'm going to get into it a little bit later about the German trenches, but. The budget for this movie, $100 million.
I could see that.
It's grossed already worldwide $250,588,079. So it's already made a significant profit, and I believe it's been out roughly a month now. I went last week, and I went obviously last night with you. It was packed. Both times that I went, it was packed. Now, we went to go see Star Wars, I think 2 days or 1 or 2 days after it was released.
The third night, because there was a midnight release.
It was Thursday. Opening weekend.
Yeah.
There were maybe 7 people in the theater.
Yeah.
And at the theater last night, a month later after this movie got released, I would say there was at least 50 people.
Yeah.
So amazing news for Sam Mendes, the director, for the production company, for the actors. This movie's going to go down as probably one of the best war movies in the past 20 years. So awesome stats right out of the gate, and it's only going to make more money from here on out. It's already made a $150 million profit, so it's all money. So how do you want to go about this? Do you want to walk through their journey? And
sure, we can talk about everything as we're going,
because it's fairly easy because it's a very linear movie.
Yeah, so it starts off and it just shows the two of them. One of them's got his back up against a tree. And the other one, I don't know if he's doing anything or not either.
I think he's sleeping on the ground or something.
And what I like to have in my notes is, not to jump ahead, but that's how the movie ends too. He sits down on the tree, and it almost looks like the start of the movie because there's tall grass blowing, and it's like the exact same shot. From the start.
I'm glad you noticed that. I didn't mention it last night after the movie when we talked because I wanted to see.
I noticed it right away. I was like, wait a minute, this is ending exactly how it started. So that was kind of cool.
It was very poetic.
But I liked. I think everyone knows by now that they tried to do this as a one shot, or try to appear as a one shot movie, and it was pretty obvious to me where the cuts were.
You could see the cuts, but
it did have the immersion of following these two guys the whole time.
Yeah, the director of photography, I didn't write his name down, and that's a mistake because he should really have so much.
He's
credit
getting
for this
an
movie.
award.
He has to. If he doesn't, it's a criminal offense.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely amazing, and it's just the little things about some of the shots that you really have to appreciate, and we'll get into that a little bit as we start this journey. So
basically, they're sitting there, and a general comes, or not the general, a guy comes up and gives them a message saying the general wants to talk to them.
Yes.
So they get up, and then it's just the two of them walking towards the camera, and the camera just starts moving backwards. So then it looks like they're just kind of chilling out on a field like a nice day, and then all of a sudden you see all the other people laying around, and there's other people, and then all of a sudden the camera keeps going, and they're all of a sudden in the trench, and then you're going deep into the trench, and you've got people like sitting like kind of in the little nooks that are inside the trench.
Yeah, they're sleeping or eating.
So it goes from like what looks like a peaceful environment to, and as the more and more they get in, and the more dirty people get, and the more weathered they look.
Yeah, the closer they get to the commander or whoever it was.
So I thought that was really cool, and I thought it was cool that it was one shot that you really got to see how long some of these like trenches could be.
It really gives you an appreciation for the set design that because there's no cuts and because they're walking from one end of the trench to the other. Like during some of these scenes, they're probably walking 1 or 2, 3 kilometers at times. So it was pretty cool. The trenches were awesome. So they get to the commander. They go inside the little bunker. They get the orders. He accepts right away. They leave the bunker and they have a little bit of a disagreement, or not really disagreement, but just like, are you sure you want to do this? and it's very obvious that Blake 100% wants to go. He's already walking twice as fast as he was away from the bunker as he did to the bunker. He's ready to go. He's on the way. And
because they have to cross basically the battle zone where the two trenches have been fighting
no
each
man's
other.
land.
Yeah, no man's land.
Which has been bombed and
so
shelled. And
when they take the orders, he tells them you got to go down that trench, and they have like street names for all the trenches. Did you see all the signs that have the street names and stuff?
I did see that, and I did hear someone in the dialogue say, "What are you doing going down an up trench or up a down trench or something?" So
it's like they had
my war knowledge isn't as good, but if there's an up lane and a down lane of the trench, that's pretty cool. That's really smart. So,
and if that was in the movie, I would have to think that was a historical accuracy. I don't think they would just make that.
I can't imagine there'd be no really
just
benefit.
based on how much accuracy it seemed like a lot of this stuff had. Like obviously some of it wasn't, but they were obviously going for a realistic vibe.
Absolutely.
So anyway, they go down and they meet a different commander or something who thinks they're just crazy for wanting to go over.
Yeah, he's like in charge of just that section or something.
And he said, like, 2 nights ago we just pulled a bunch of men off who got killed up there, and you're telling me they're not there? So
basically saying you're on a suicide mission.
Yeah, gives him a flare gun and says, all right. He's like, we're not coming after you. If you make it, fire. If not, we're not coming after you.
And if you know you're not going to make it, throw the flare back.
Yeah, if you're not going to make it, throw the flare back. I hate to lose it.
Yeah. So they make the journey, or they start the journey, and
I thought No Man's Land was awesome.
There wasn't much of a score or music at that point. It was kind of silent. You could just, and on purpose, because you're almost waiting for something to happen. You're waiting for them to get bombed. You're waiting for them to get shelled or shot, or just freak out over a bird flying away and just getting to the ground. Like, it's a very tense moment in the movie. So they're just slowly walking through some little craters and puddles, and they have to split a piece of the barbed wire fence, and Schofield cuts his hand.
Didn't it look good though? The No Man's Land set. I thought the barbed wire, the puddles, the craters, the dead horses, the flies, like everything.
I have a question about that. So they come across. He cuts his hand, and then they go through the barbed wire. And
I thought that was going to lead to something. I thought he was going to get a disease.
I thought so too,
especially after he stuck it in the dead man's stomach or whatever.
Because he fell down in the
like I thought hole. He was going to get some sort of disease and die off or something.
That was the really big whoa. As far as what they're going to see, because just after the barbed wire, they fall down to the hole and there's dead bodies and stuff, and then he puts his hand into accidentally into a body.
Yeah, so his hand was cut open and then right into a body.
I think they leave the trench and then they find some horses. One was quite decayed. One was probably, I don't know, dead for a week or whatever it is. But one of the horses had a lot of flies, and the camera purposely goes just over the body of the horse through the flies. Do you think those flies were real or CGI?
I think they were CGI.
I thought that they were real the first time I saw the movie, and then when I watched it for the second time, I thought they were fake or CGI. So, anyways, still a nice touch. And I think after that, they saw the planes fly above their head, which were Allied planes, and they were scouting, or I think he said, I wonder what they see, or I wonder what they saw, or something like that. After that, they eventually get to the...
No, he said that... I think you're right.
Oh, no, sorry. They go into a really, really deep trench that's full of water.
Yes.
It looks like an asteroid crater or something, or a meteorite crater. That shot was unbelievable.
It was one of my favorite shots. Wasn't my favorite, but was one of my favorites.
So they go down into the crater, and then they walk around the left side. Now the camera stays on them, pans at their speed, but goes across the middle of the crater above the water. As it does that, you see in the foreground a body with a crow on top eating it or whatever.
Yeah.
Just little things like that would have had to have been planned by the director of photography. It's just unbelievable. So they get to the other side, and they start climbing up the other hill, and it's kind of a close-up shot of them, of their feet and their hands kind of climbing up. And then as they get up, he kind of stops and he looks to his right, and then there's a head kind of there with like that's...
It's like in the wire, the barbed wire,
yeah, and it's decayed and stuff, and you could see the skull. And they focus rack to the dead head or the body or whatever, and then he continues up. And then the focus switches back and it continues.
It just keeps going, yeah.
The fact that focus change was planned 6.5 minutes into a shot that it started way back there, or maybe even more. Maybe it was like 12 minutes at that point. I don't know when that first transition happened, or if it even happened at that point. The fact that they had a focus change that was absolutely crucial to the shot, that far into the shot, was unbelievable. I thought it was amazing. And the first transition that I noticed was seconds after that as they go up and around a rock or whatever.
Kind of zooms in on his backpack a little bit.
Yeah, and there are certain transitions where they do this, where when they come out of the transition, their bodies aren't the same angle.
Yeah,
you can tell it's a transition, just based on perspective. After that,
That's when they jump in on the German.
Yeah, so they find the German front line, and the music increases. They don't know what they're going to find. They jump into the trench. There's no one there.
So you said you had to complain about the German trench. What was that?
I did. Why was it so clean? There wasn't any empty ammo cases. It looked like it was swept. There was no garbage. There was no.
I think it was supposed to show that it was more.
Like, are they going to sweep that and clean that up before they go? No, they're just going to leave it. So I just thought that was a little.
The walls were cement and stuff, so it did show that their trenches were more fortified than the British trenches.
Yeah,
like the British trenches when they show at the start, it's like wood,
plywood,
and then there's parts where it's just mud.
Yeah,
and like mud bottom, and it shows that the German kind of has spent more time, or I guess they were there first or whatever.
Yep.
So they have like cemented and it just seemed more fortified. That was actually one of the pros I had. I didn't even notice that it wasn't dirty.
Yeah.
But I did notice that it was cement, and I did like that they showed that obviously theirs was of higher quality than the British one.
And the set design too, just the little signs in German that they had around and stuff. Like they did such a good job. Shortly after that, they find a bucket with some ashes in it, and they kick it over, and it's still.
Yeah. So he says they haven't been gone long. They're gone, but they haven't been gone long.
It's still burning. Yeah. So. After that, they walk through the trenches a little bit more, and then they find a underground bunker barracks, basically, with beds and stuff, and it's completely abandoned. And there's things hanging from the ceiling. There's rats in there, and there's most of the mattresses and everything are gone. It's been cleared out.
They think it's like a tunnel that will take them to the other side of the hill.
Yeah, because they're trying to get to the other side.
Yeah,
and there's basically the trench ends, and they're forced to go inside. So they go in there. And
this is like where the first thing in the movie happens, kind of.
The first action-based event, basically, other than the planes that flew over, which wasn't really anything. So there's a rat that kind of comes down and grabs one of the bags and climbs back up and over. And I don't know if one falls from the ceiling or if it just comes out of nowhere. I can't remember what happened at that point.
It falls from the ceiling after.
Because they're looking at food. They find some food.
Yeah, and Blake says, even the rats are bigger than ours. Like,
yeah.
And then the rat kind of goes up these like steel beams, and it's like walking around the room towards to where the other door is. And then Schofield steps to the left, and then all of a sudden he says, "Don't move, it's tripwire." And he looks down, and there's this wire going. So they had purposely sabotaged their own bunker, knowing that eventually this British team would move up.
Exactly. And they knew they'd never be back to the bunker. And they were trying to bury whoever.
So then he's just standing there telling them not to move, and then this rat falls from the ceiling.
And he grabs a bag and he starts dragging it towards the...
Yeah, grabs the bag and then drags it over the tripwire, and then tripwire goes off.
A massive explosion.
It's like super loud. Up until this point, the movie's been pretty quiet. And it's just like bang!
And even the sound in general was, I thought quite loud in our theater experience. So that explosion was definitely...
mega loud, yeah.
That's one of the moments I said there's going to be two moments that scare you in this movie. That was one of them. Did it scare you?
It didn't scare me because I seen you going like this.
I was covering my ear, yeah.
But I kind of wondered.
Anyways, Schofield gets buried by rubble. Blake kind of gets knocked back because he's away from the explosion. He gets up. He's relatively fine. And he's just looking at a pile of rubble. And he knows that Schofield's in there somewhere. So he digs him out. He's unconscious, I think, at first. Blake wakes him up. He's got dust and powder.
Yeah, he can't see.
If you've ever seen 9/11 footage when some of the people come out of the building,
like that.
They're just covered in white. That's what Schofield kind of looked like, and he had all in his mouth and stuff he couldn't see. And at this point, the barracks and bunker are collapsing around them. The beams are falling. The tripwire bomb did a number. They had to get out, so he grabs them. They continue. They walk. They're almost running at this point, trying to get out, and they come across this just like pit where I think the Germans cut out intentionally for where people would fall.
I think he said it was a mine elevator or something.
A mine elevator.
But the elevator wasn't there anymore. It had fallen.
Yeah, so they have to jump this thing, and obviously the guy that can see jumps fine, but the guy who can't see has to do it by trusting his friend.
Yeah.
So after that, they get outside, and they're in this big courtyard of where I don't know the word for the guns. Like the shell.
They're like artillery
guns. Like, so there were shell casings everywhere.
Like massive shell casings.
Like literally, like shell, yeah, it's just
like
huge. I thought that set was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was done so well. I don't know if it was accurate, but
it was almost like they were in a valley.
Yeah, it was.
It was like they came out of a big hill and they were in a valley with hills all around them, and there was just all these like purposely they sabotaged their own artillery so that the British couldn't use it, but just these giant shells everywhere. Yeah, you felt like a small person.
You did. You felt so insignificant around, like, because the shells were half as tall as
and there was tons of them.
Yeah, there were thousands of shells and stuff. So they walked across this wooden platform around these shells and the guns and stuff, and they got to a bit of forest area. Which
like this is where the movie starts turning a little green. So up until now, it's all been dark or mud or trench.
And part of that forest was burned until they get out, and then everything's green. It's open pasture. It's springtime, and you think. Well, at that point, I was thinking, because they were having a conversation about whatever, I don't even know. I think a rat biting an ear of a soldier who's telling the story. Yeah. But they were talking so loudly. I was like, you guys don't even know what's out there. Like, why are you talking so loudly?
Yeah.
And then they get to this open area where there's no place to hide. They have to walk through the valley to wherever they're going. And I'm thinking, something's going to go down because there's no place to hide, no cover. And there's two of them. So I can't remember what happens after this point.
I think this is where they get to those trees, isn't it? Where the white stuff's coming down.
Oh, right. So there's like a little village thing.
Yeah.
And there's
like
cherry
3 or
trees.
4 like buildings. Like one's like a barn. They look like they're ruins. They're like no one's living there anymore. And there's like this white kind of flowery bud things on this tree. And Corporal Blake's explaining to Schofield, like, I grew up on a farm or a...
Yeah, my mother had a cherry tree.
Yeah, some sort of orchard or something, and they picked them, and which becomes relevant later in the movie because we see another one of those trees when he eventually meets the brother. But
just a little fun fact: I read about cherry trees a little bit, and in England or in that area of Europe or France or whatever, they don't harvest cherry trees until late May, June at the earliest. So the fact that they were in April. And because he was saying that we picked them, he was talking about his mother and him doing it at this time if he was home or whatever. Incorrect. It was 2 months prior, so it was a little bit of a flub.
Okay.
I think they just walk through it.
Yeah, they check it out. Like one guy says, "I'll check the front, I'll check the back," and there's nothing anywhere. And then Schofield goes out to a barn and there's a pail of milk there, and he starts drinking this old crappy milk.
They go through the house, which is kind of creepy because you kind of get the sense that someone's in the house or something's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like really quiet.
Just the way that it was filmed. There's a point where he's inside and the camera goes outside and it shows Blake that's outside and he's just standing there and there's just silence and you're just kind of waiting for something to happen. But
like if you've ever read the Martian book by Andy Weir,
like
what's his name, Mark Watney, dude, the whole book is him getting owned by stuff. Andy Weir's the author.
Andy Weir.
But Mark Watney's the character. Right. So in the book, like even in the movie, but in the book more so, stuff's always going wrong for that guy. And that's how I felt towards these two guys. Like there's either something going wrong or we're watching something where something could go wrong.
Exactly, yeah. You're right. That's a really good comparison.
So anyway, so they're...
Yeah, sorry to get back. He goes out to this like little shed with the milk.
Yeah, so there's this milk and there's one cow there just kind of looking at him. And a bunch of the other cows are dead because the Germans killed them so that they wouldn't eat them as food, apparently. So anyway, there's these... So they're standing there and then all of a sudden there's 3 planes overhead. And
dogfighting.
There's 2 British planes shooting down a German plane. And eventually they shoot it down and it kind of comes down and it goes in behind a hill that you can't see. And the next thing you know, it's coming back over the hill and it crashes into the barn they're in, which is like, okay, whatever.
It's a little cliche.
There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, okay.
As far as CGI goes.
I mean, it was fine. It's just like, what are the chances that this would happen?
I don't know how they filmed that shot, though.
It's interesting.
Because it's all done in one take, and that plane legitimately goes in there and crashes right in front. Like I don't know how they filmed it. There's definitely some movie magic there.
So this is one of the big parts of the movie, though, is so the plane crashes and it's on fire, and they go to get the guy out. And at first I was thinking, why don't you just kill this guy? Like, he's the enemy. Anyway, so they pull him out, and he's on fire, and they pull him out into the middle of like the opening where all the houses are, and Blake tells Schofield to go get some water for him.
And then Schofield says, why don't we just kill him? Why don't we just end him or something like that?
And then he says, no, we got to help him out. And then so he runs over starts pumping this dirty water that's just nasty looking. It's like brown as could be. Next thing you know, the camera pans around and that German soldier pulled out pulled out a knife and stabbed Blake.
Yeah, right in the gut.
Right in the gut. So then I'm like, okay, well, that other guy had like rocks cave in on him and like he's gonna be all right. They'll just patch him up.
Yeah.
But nope.
He was bleeding.
He was bleeding like crazy, and it was on him a lot, and it just kept pouring out of him. Like,
yeah.
But so then he says, I want you to write a letter to my mom. I want you to tell. Well,
first Schofield shoots.
Oh yeah, he does shoot the guy, and then he runs over and helps him out.
He tries to get him up and get him walking and stuff. And I thought, from an acting perspective, Dean Charles Chapman, who plays Blake, was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Just the facial expressions,
like I can't do it. Like I physically can't walk. Like this is it.
The way his face was, it's like I wasn't watching a movie. Mm. Like it's like he wasn't acting. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
then he asks him. Blake asks Schofield, like, "Am I dying?" And Schofield's like, "Yes, I think you are."
Yeah. He pauses for a little bit. Like it's a pretty emotional scene.
Yeah.
And he starts to kind of get a little bit delusional. He asks like, "Oh, what happened to me? Did we get shelled or something?"
Yeah.
So he was starting to lose it. Now I have a problem with this scene. Actually, I have two problems with this scene. Problem number one is, which wasn't a problem the first time I watched it, his face got really pale as the scene went on.
Like as he was dead and they were moving
as he was like losing the blood.
I did notice that.
I thought that was amazing that they did that because that's obviously accurate. But you notice his hands were still full color.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, they didn't lose. They didn't whatever. So that was a little flub, I guess. But shortly after that, he dies, and he's Schofield's taking the rings off of him, his spare dog tag, and I think something else. And he plans to write a letter to his mother because he says, "Can you
write my mom and tell her I wasn't scared?"
Yeah, tell her I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
So he's taking a couple of his belongings to send back or give to his brother or whatever whenever he gets there. So he tries to drag the body over to a little shed thing, and all of a sudden there's Allied soldiers.
Two Allied soldiers, yeah.
I was just like, "Yo, you need some help," or whatever they say, and they help him drag the body over. And they kind of lay there for a little bit, and then the commander comes over and says, "What are you doing?" And he explains it and says, "Well, come with us. We'll take
it's like, I have orders to get to this battalion." I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Is it a battalion? Is it a regiment? Like
he has to get to the town of Acoust.
Yeah.
I don't remember the Devons or Evans or something like that.
He says, "I have orders to get them to stop their attack," or whatever. Yeah. And he says, "Okay, well, we have a convoy. We'll take you there."
Yeah.
So they let that guy go, or Blake go.
Before we move on, just real quickly, did you notice that there was no breathing at all from the character?
I was looking for it.
I was too.
I was looking for his chest to go up or down or anything.
I thought I saw it go a couple times.
I don't think so.
I don't know how they did it.
He did a good job.
He did an amazing job.
Especially for one taking it.
Absolutely. It's so impressive. But anyway, so
basically, if you can see me on the screen here, imagine this piece of paper here is like the area they're in. So there's like a house here, a barn here. So they go in this house here to get to this side of the road. So they walk through one side of the house and come out the other.
Yes.
This is the beef I have. When they come out the other, there's like a convoy of three
big trucks,
army vehicles that hold troop transports.
Yeah.
And like probably 30 men or something. And I'm like, wait a minute. Where did these guys come from? And they were stopped on the road to move a tree.
So they had been there for probably a couple minutes at
least a couple minutes. And you would think that you would have heard them.
They would have heard the gunshot.
Or they would have seen the smoke coming up from the down plane and would have come over to check it out or something.
Absolutely.
Which I mean, they did in a way, but
yeah,
it just seemed... And for one of the cons I wrote down, like I have a piece of paper that I wrote the night of. I'll get back to this. It's just a general thing. And I think this follows under it. So anyway, he gets on this convoy, which he's not on very long, which is kind of weird. And basically the people on it are telling stories, and he's just sitting there just thinking about what happened. And then all of a sudden they get stuck in the mud and they have to move, and he gets out and starts telling everyone to push, and they're just like, "Well, who the hell are you?" And then all of a sudden he says, "I have orders to stop an attack, and I got to get there. I don't have time." And then all of a sudden everyone helps push, and then back on they go. And then like 2 minutes later, the bridge is down. I guess this is as far as we go. And then he gets out and he's on his own again.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird scene, but I guess I have to connect him to some other people in the movie a little bit, and it's kind of good to see.
I think I'm going to get into this now. This is where one of my cons. I think this is where one of the. I think this is where the one take hurts the movie, or the one considered one shot, because it's in one shot. Time is real time.
Time is real time. Yes.
So I feel like some of the environments are shortened.
Yep.
Like the trenches were obviously closer together than they would have been, because they just had to make each set smaller because they're one-shotting them behind it. And at the end of the movie, which we'll get into, that I mentioned to you last night, he basically leaves the end trench and goes up to a medical thing, which is literally just up a hill. Meanwhile, the trench is getting bombed by artillery.
Like
so, I mean, it's literally
away.
like 50 feet to hit that hill where everyone is. So, I think overall, people can understand like what they were going for.
Yeah.
But just, I think the one shot hurts it in that way. But
it does, yeah. So, I mean, it's not to take away from set design. Set design was amazing. And I don't want to backtrack before we go down into the next part, but I forgot a piece, and it's really important. When the bomb goes off in the bunker and Schofield's buried, do you notice that neither of them have any hearing loss or hearing problems at all? Like, that would have deafened them both, or at least partially for a little bit.
And there was no like high-pitched tone
there was
played.
Like, so I thought that was a little bit of a flub. But anyway, sorry.
Okay, so he gets off the convoy. They have to turn around to go to find a different bridge.
Yeah, the bridge is destroyed.
So the one part I did like was that whoever the commander was saying, when you deliver your message, have witnesses, because some people just want to fight. I thought that was cool.
It's true. It's cool because it's probably accurate.
Yeah. So anyway, they let him on his way, and so he gets off of the convoy and walks like, I don't know, 40 steps to this bridge and starts walking down a bridge. And then some snipers in some random house above him start shooting at him. Meanwhile, the convoy is still kind of right there. Like they haven't really gone anywhere.
Did that scare you, by the way?
No, nothing really scared me.
That scared me so bad the first time.
I was pretty much ready for it.
Because it was right as he jumped, or right before he jumped to the next section of the bridge on the other side of the water. Oh, man, it scared me the first time.
So the city that he's at, or the bridge goes over, and the guy that's shooting at, that is the city he was supposed to walk through.
Acoust.
Yeah,
but he didn't know it.
He didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
No. So anyway, the sniper's shooting at him, and he ends up going up this bridge, and then they kind of trade fire back and forth, which I thought was a little unrealistic, because that guy had him exactly. All he had to do was wait for his head to pop out, and bam, I got you.
No sense.
So I didn't like that.
Also, he had grenades. They gave them extra grenades.
They never used the grenades the whole time.
He could have threw logically, he would have thrown a grenade up there.
So,
or even if you did shoot him, when you're coming up the stairs, which he did, which is the next part, which you're leading into, he would throw a grenade into that room.
Yeah.
He wouldn't open the door.
I thought that was kind of... I don't know why they do that in movies. Like, they're trying to make suspense, but make it more realistic. Like, don't have guns with 100 rounds in them, and don't
spend all the time that you did on the set design in the whole movie to only kind of make a mistake.
The guy had the high ground, and you were deliberately popping your head out in the exact same spot every time.
Yeah.
So anyway, Schofield ends up shooting him and hitting him. So somehow he won that engagement. Then he runs into the house, goes up the stairs, opens the door, and the German's standing there with a little pistol, and he shoots him, and they both shoot each other at the same time. So he goes flying down the steps, and he hits his head. His head's all bloody.
Blacks out.
And then he wakes up, and it's nighttime now.
Yeah, so that's where they get the time transition that they needed for the next part.
Because he was knocked out, which is the one main cut that they want you to see in the movie, I guess, the passage of time.
So he didn't actually get shot. I guess he just fell down the stairs.
See, that's what I don't understand.
I thought he got shot.
He clearly got shot. He went flying down the stairs.
Maybe he just got startled. Maybe the guy missed and he just got startled.
But his whole body urched down the stairs.
I don't know.
And he 100% got shot. I can't see how that played out if he didn't get shot. But that was one of the cons I had. Like, how did he get shot in the stomach? And it was no big deal after he got up.
Did he get shot in the stomach? I don't know where he got shot.
I assumed he got shot in the stomach because his whole body went flying back, stomach first, like this.
I just assumed that he just fell down the stairs he just got startled and fell down the stairs because he got up and he didn't have any...
See, maybe that's what happened, but to me it seemed like the German's literally sitting there like this. The door opens, bam, I missed. That's another con I had. I didn't like the...
No one had accuracy except for him.
Okay, yeah. I said, I didn't like the German... this is what I wrote down last night after I seen the movie. I said, Germans were always trying to kill the main characters regardless of the situation, and I thought they seemed very one-dimensional.
Yep.
And I didn't like...
They seemed like NPCs.
I didn't like... Yeah, like... We're going to get... Okay, I'll wait to say this part. So, anyway, so he realizes it's night and he has to get there by morning to warn this battalion or whatever that not to do their fight, because there's a set time that they plan on going. They're going to blow their whistles, and that's it. There's no point of return.
Yeah.
So anyway, he starts going down this, what's the name? Cost or
Acoust.
Acoust?
But wait, when he gets up from the stairs and he goes down the stairs.
He looks out a window.
The camera goes out the window,
and it's all lit up,
and then comes down right behind him.
Yeah.
And the Germans are shooting up flares and stuff. Like that transition from out the window that the camera goes and then down and behind him, it's almost like a third-person view.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
A lot of the camera work, you felt like you were playing a video game. Like you were like either behind the characters or in front of them or beside them. It's like we're pretty into camera stuff, and there's a lot of shots where I'm like, how the crap did they do that? If this is real, like if this is not a CGI that just looks really good, if this is actually real, mad props, because I can't figure it out. Like some of them you could figure, but some of them is just like, whoa, like I'm impressed.
It's pretty amazing. So he's down there on the ground. He's outside the building, and he knows he's running out of time. So this is at night at this point, and it's a city in ruins. There's not one intact building other than probably than the one he was just in. Everything's just a disaster. And the Germans are shooting up flares, and as the flares move, they change the shadow.
And these are like mega flares. Like they're like
super bright.
It's like a sun right above the city. Like it just lights up the whole city. And like Neil said, there's just shadows that are moving with the flares. And
the score, the music that they used at that point was super intense. I thought that scene when he first started to go through the city and run or whatever, because he got shot at shortly.
Yeah, like he was moving between shadow, or kind of like when the flares would start to die down, he'd start running. And then he ducked behind a thing when they came back up. And then when they started shooting at him, he was just like running all the time.
I thought that was just amazing.
That would be a hard shot or scene to shoot with one take.
And then he gets to the point where he kind of no one's really following him. He gets out, and then he walks up to this big giant church. It's huge and it's on fire. I think it's a church or whatever. And there's just a silhouette of him standing in an archway with a cross.
And you could see this thing on fire, kinda. You didn't know if it was on fire, if you didn't know if it was like a big flare.
Yeah,
like he's moving towards this huge light, and then it's just kind of brought into the frame. It's just like, whoa.
That like, and they stopped on that.
Oh yeah,
that
stopped.
Scene that section for probably 5 seconds.
Yep.
And he was just silhouetted there. Like that's an amazing shot.
Yep.
Then it continues. So he starts to walk out into the courtyard, and then he sees an NPC or I mean a German soldier. On the other side.
Okay, back to my beefs.
Yeah, here comes your beef.
Okay. I don't like, and a lot of movies do this, I don't like it when a character is running and a whole bunch of people are shooting at him and every bullet just misses.
Yeah.
Like, this is not me and you shooting a dude. This is the German armed forces.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are trained to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not just one of them. And I didn't like that every single one of them shot from the hip. Like, bam,
oh, yeah.
Bam. None of them looked down the scope at all. Yeah, like it was just like, bam, I'm gonna keep running. Bam, keep running. Bam, keep running. And meanwhile, the main character is just running in a straight line. He's not ducking in and out. He's not doing swerves. He's just straight lining.
If they had to stop and actually use
all you had to do was go bang. And at one point there was 3 guys shooting him.
Yep, there was.
I think he busts into the window before he meets those 2, right? He meets the 2 after he leaves.
Yeah, so like he walks out in the courtyard, and the German soldier just starts running at him and firing from the hip. So he just runs the opposite way, and that happens for 15, 20 seconds, and then he kind of hides in a building. And
he kicks open it's like a window that's street level. So he kicks it open.
It's where a basement window would be.
Yeah, and he kind of slides into it, and the guy goes running by, and then he checks it out and notices there's a fireplace on.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, someone living in here. And it ends up being a French woman with her baby.
French woman with a baby, not her baby.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't her baby. It was someone else's
Just a
baby.
random
She's
baby.
like, I don't know whose baby this is. So she kind of like cleans up his head a little bit.
I thought that scene was weird.
Yeah, and then he realizes, hey, I can't stay here. I'm on the clock. So he leaves.
Yeah.
And
that's what, and like that scene was probably about 8 minutes long, and we just skipped over in 2 seconds because it
seemed like it was pretty. And I was thinking, like, this whole city's in ruins. The Germans have gone through and killed everyone. Like, how was this woman here with a random baby?
Exactly.
And she had a fire on, so I mean, there would have been smoke coming out of her building. Like, why did the Germans leave her alone?
Also, did you notice when he left the room and went back outside, he never shut any of the doors that he went through?
Yeah.
So like, if she's hiding down there,
and when he went out the door, it was right on the street. Like I was thinking, like maybe he was giving me like some alleyway or something, but nope, just right on the street and keep on running.
Didn't make any sense, but
so then he comes up on a guy that's like barfing outside on the.
He's drunk or whatever.
He's like super drunk, and then he sneaks in on the side, and there's another guy in the room with him,
just a young kid,
and he grabs him by the face and tells him to be quiet, and then he's just like, okay, and the German's like, okay. And as soon as he lets his mouth go, he's like, hey, there's a guy over here. And then they fight, and the drunk guy comes back in, doesn't realize what's happening, and he chokes the guy out. And by the time he realizes something's going on and the drunk guy starts walking, he gets up and knocks him down and then just keeps on running. And then that's when, at some point, so there's 3 German guys shooting at him in a straight line. None of them can hit him.
None of them.
So like that could have been done so much better just to make it a little more realistic, because I just had a beef with how they portrayed the Germans. Like they were incompetent. Yeah. They were only there to kill them. Like I'm pretty sure in the war, like, yeah, you're enemies, but I'm pretty sure there was some more people that were kind of like Blake, who were like, no, let's help this guy out or get him some water. Like, but in this movie, it was like, nope, no matter what, we're gonna kill you. We're like one-sided.
They're smart enough to bring.
We're not smart enough to hold our guns up, look down the sights. We're gonna shoot from the hip and then keep running, and shoot from the hip and keep running.
They're smart enough to bring their line back to lay a trap, but they're not smart enough to fire a weapon.
So I thought the German army wasn't quite represented that well. That was my only beef with that. And I mean, for the most part, it's fine. And all of that could have been fixed by just not either having him being running so much or just being able to get out of the firing range quicker.
Absolutely.
And go down different alleyways and stuff.
But that whole set design with the shadows and the
was
flares,
awesome.
Like I almost had tears in my eyes. That's how intense it was. That's how... Like I was so emotionally invested in that scene. It's just crazy. I want to watch it 1,000 times more.
Every con I had with the movie has been mentioned now. I had no beef with the rest of the movie.
Oh, I don't either actually. Oh yes, I do.
Was it with the end?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We can do it. So he jumps while the Germans are chasing him. He finds a bridge and he jumps into the river,
which was the only part of the movie where I felt like he was a CGI character, because I'm pretty sure he did not do that.
Quite obvious.
It was just like he jumped over and it was like super motion blur and just blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, and the other part where he kind of floats down and then he goes over a waterfall after that. Yeah, that was also CGI. He gets
sucked down really fast.
That was definitely CGI. After that, he floats down the river and eventually comes to calmer waters into a forest area. Climbs over some bodies, goes up a hill, hears people singing or a voice.
When he was holding on to that log, did you think he was thinking about killing himself?
No.
Like letting it go and drowning?
No, I think he's just exhausted. And just
See, I thought he was like thinking of letting himself drown, and then he like pulled himself out. Like, no, I gotta...
Maybe.
I thought when he... This isn't really a con, but I was kind of surprised when he walked up on those soldiers who were singing and listening to him, that no one turned around to look at like who's coming behind us.
I think he was coming so slowly that...
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, that could have easily been a German squad sneaking up on them and just nobody paying attention. Yeah. And I thought the guy singing was going to be the brother too for a little bit.
Oh, I thought it was super impressive that through all those water scenes, not a single drop of water went on the camera lens. I don't know how they did it.
Yes, I did think that when we were watching it too, because before he went down the waterfall, there was like mad rapids of the waves coming up like this, and I'm thinking like, is the camera like really far back and just zoomed in a lot so that it doesn't hit the waves?
That's what I thought.
I'm like, some of the waves are like right here, but they're not ever hitting the camera.
I think they shot the whole thing in 35. I don't think they used any. We would have been able to tell from perspective from zoom.
But they must have been just bare. But
I don't know.
And they weren't moving the camera up or down, because I was looking for it. Like the camera never went up or down with the horizon.
Yep.
So they just must have known where to be.
I don't know how they did that and kept focus on him, because sometimes they went in a little bit closer and the focus changed. Like unbelievable.
Maybe none of it was real.
Maybe none of it was real.
Like, it's hard to say with CGI these days, but
yeah.
So anyway, he comes across these people, and that is actually the battalion he's looking for.
Yes, the Devons.
And he says, "Well, it's daytime now." And he's like, "Well, how come you guys haven't attacked?" He goes, "Well, we're the fourth
battalion,
the fourth wave. Like we go last." So he's like, "Well, I need to get to the front." So then they tell him where to go, and he runs down, and this he goes back into another trench, which is kind of like the start of the movie, except for they're all pinned up against kind of the side of the trench because they're getting ready to jump over and go attack.
Yeah, everyone's loading their guns and getting.
So he keeps asking like, "Where's Commander whatever the guy's name?" And someone keeps saying, he's further down. He's further down.
Yeah.
And then he gets to a point where a guy stops him because they're literally getting ready to march or to charge over the side and go.
Yep.
He's got his whistle ready and he's got his watch. And he's like, "You'll never make it. Like this, there's no way." So then he stands up on top of the trench, like in the firing line.
Yeah.
And then he's running towards the camera as they blow their whistles, and all these British soldiers are running towards, and artillery's coming down, and the soldiers are getting bombed, and the trench is getting bombed.
He's running into soldiers and falling down.
Yeah, he's knocking soldiers down.
Which I don't think is intentional. I think that just happened, and they just went for it. Because at one point, he was really far back, and he had to run faster to catch up to the speed of the camera.
Yeah.
So I think that wasn't actually meant to happen, but it
could be.
It worked so well.
Oh, yeah. It definitely looked good.
Yeah.
So then eventually he gets to the commander's barracks or whatever you want to call it. It's just a room in the trench.
It's like a bunker.
Yeah, it's like a bunker. And the two guys outside are like, there's no way we're letting you in here. And then finally he just barges in, and then you have your like interstellar moment with Matt Damon. It's like, hey, Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie.
Exactly.
Like, this is a movie with people I've never heard of before, and bam. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie for 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
It was definitely my interstellar moment with Matt Damon. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Where did this come from?
I thought it was awesome. When you said earlier in this video that there was no one to really mention of actors, I'm thinking, I wonder if you forgot about Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, I knew, but just I was saving it.
Yeah.
So anyway, he gives the orders, and as the other guy was saying before, like, make sure there's someone in the room, he was saying, I'm not.
Yeah, he predicted it.
He said, this fight's on. I'm not pulling back. I'm not waiting till nighttime to go. Like, and then Schofield says, no, the orders are to stop the fight because this is a trap.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he says it's a trap, he gets his number one guy to read it or pass it over, and then he opens it up and reads it and says, nope, stand down.
When he first took that letter and I heard the rip, I thought he ripped it up.
So did I.
I was like, oh my God.
It was kind of a weird sound effect. I wonder if they used the wrong sound effect there.
I don't know.
Whoever mixed that. But
yeah. He was just ripping off the edge till he could pull the letter out. But
I liked it how he was like, okay, F off.
Yeah.
And then he walks out of the room, and then whoever the guy's second in command is, he's just like, you did a good job.
Yeah.
And he's like, where can I find this guy? And he's like, well, he was in the first wave, so he's either over there dead or he's up on the medical.
Yeah.
Because he got pulled back.
Forget his name.
Which is weird because in real time, they literally just ran over there 2 minutes ago.
I think there was already waves that started, though.
But it didn't start until the whistles went.
You don't think that was the first?
The first
I thought there was already a wave that went, and that was
maybe that explains it then.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Okay.
But anyway, he goes to the medical facility,
so he basically,
the triage.
It looks like it's just up a hill, which we both thought was kind of weird, which I think comes down to the con of having one shot. Yes. You have to condense everything, otherwise the movie would be 5 hours long.
Yeah, you can't make him walk another 1,500 meters over to whatever. Like, realistically, that place would probably be a mile behind the front lines.
It would be quite far behind the front line. You wouldn't have your triage center on a hill on the front line.
It makes no sense.
But in the movie, that's how it looked. And then he sees, like, he starts going around asking if everyone knows who he is, and there's, like, tons of people who are hurt. Like, there's tons of legs broken off and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's just triage after triage after triage of hurt people, and he can't find them. And then all of a sudden, you see those white kind of flowery things start coming down again, like when Blake was talking about them. The cherry trees. And then he hears a guy talking. He turns around and says, "Are you whatever Blake?" And he said, "Yep." And then he says, "I'm from the 8th." And he's like, "What the hell are you doing here then?" And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, wait a minute." He's like, "You might know my brother." And then he has to tell him that his brother is dead. And I thought that actor who played Blake's brother did a good job in that scene.
That was a really good engagement between the two.
Like, he looked like he was pissed. He looked like he was sad. But then he thanked Schofield for being there for his brother. And when he died, and he shook his hand. I thought that was awesome.
Because he's a soldier. He doesn't really want to show his emotions. He wants to be tough and stuff. But you could tell in his face, like, it was just killing him.
Yeah, and then Schofield says, "Do I have permission to write to your mother?" Because that's what his brother wanted. And he said, "Of course." And then, as we mentioned earlier, he continues walking over the hill, and it looks like the very opening scene, and there's a tree there with tall grass blowing, and he sits down in front of it, which is exactly how the movie opened. And then he pulls out some pictures that shows his 2 kids and his wife that says, "Come back to us."
Yes.
And that's like the most you learn about that character the entire movie.
Because you see him look inside that case a couple times during the movie, but you never actually see what he's looking at until the end of the movie.
So there's not really any character building for Schofield the whole time.
Not really.
Like he's just most of it is like, why did you get rid of your ribbon?
Yeah,
and it's because the ribbon doesn't mean anything to him. Getting back to his
didn't
family.
Want the medal. He traded it for a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
You figure that out near the spot in the movie where Blake dies.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie ends. He's up against a tree like he was when the movie started. So it's amazing that we can sit here and go through, we can go through it so linear, but we can do it because of how the movie was shot.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me to do that with Interstellar, which I've seen probably 15 times, it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to do that just because of the way it was shot. And I can do it with this movie because of the way it's shot. So, hats off to them for doing it. Obviously, there's flubs. We've already talked about a lot of them, or most of them.
But I think it was cool, and I think
it's so cool.
It's something that's not really been done before. Like, we've seen, there's been scenes of movies.
Well, I think this new movie Birdman with Kevin Costner, I believe that was all looked to be one take.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a war movie.
There was a movie with I can't remember the guy's name. He was in Children of Men.
I don't know.
I can't remember. He was in a movie with Julianne something, the redheaded girl.
Moore?
Yeah, and they're in a car. And the opening scene of that movie is kind of them in the car, and then the camera goes outside of the car, and I think they're getting shot at the start of the movie. I think it's like a 15-minute opener of a movie, and it's one shot. And that got a lot of praise for the one shot.
I'm sure it's not. It's really hard to film a movie all in one shot. I can't even imagine the complexity of shooting a war movie all in one shot. There are so many things that you need to have done right, like the fake shells or bombs going off at the right time. There's so many things, and obviously some of that was CGI, but
and even just all the extras and stuff too. You have to make sure they're all doing what they need to be doing right.
Absolutely. I did notice one guy look at the camera at one point when he found the dude that was singing and all the soldiers were sitting around.
But I wonder if that was intentional or not, because I noticed it too.
To look at the camera?
I don't think they would have kept it unless that was just legitimately one shot, and they're like, okay, too bad, we got to go.
They were deep into that one shot, I think, at that point, because
right.
he was just coming out of the. I guess they weren't that deep into it, but still.
I did notice that too. He kind of
just briefly, and then he looked down or something like that. Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a really good movie. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10.
I give it 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. We tore it apart a little bit, but
I think the pros. The cons are just, if you had to ask me what I didn't like about it, that's what I didn't like about it. That doesn't mean I didn't like the movie. It's just
the cons do not ruin the movie.
I would like to see a movie where it's more realistic of when your main characters are getting shot at. Don't make the people shooting him just totally incompetent, because especially when the other side is the German army. When they're literally trained to shoot those guns, not run and fire them from the hip and then run and fire from the hip and just keep running do a little bit better service than that. And if you need to make it more realistic, and of course there's no way that character could have gone down there and done that, then find a different way for your character to go.
Totally, yeah.
You know what I mean? But no.
Regardless, if you are watching this video, and you haven't seen the movie and you've watched until this point, I highly recommend you see this in theaters while it's still in theaters. It's definitely a theater movie with the sound and the visuals.
I'm gonna buy this on Blu-ray.
I'm buying this in 4K, definitely. Don't wait until you can watch this at home on your couch. Please go see it in theaters. It's worth the ticket price. It's worth the admission, definitely. Anything else to say?
I don't think so. I think that's.
I just have a couple questions here for you, actually. What was your favorite scene?
I don't know, actually. The first time seeing No Man's Land or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. All the barbed wire and the dead stuff. I thought that was really good. I was super drawn in when I got there. I was pretty drawn in through the tunnels and stuff. But as soon as we got there, I was like, oh.
I think it gave you an appreciation for the scale of the set design.
It's I know where this is going now, and I'm on board with this. I really liked the flare scene.
Yeah.
I thought that
was my favorite.
I thought the city looked really good. Probably one of those two.
All right. What did you think of the acting overall?
I thought they did good.
I thought this was one of the best acted movies I've ever seen.
And I don't want to say they're nobodies, because they've obviously done stuff before, but they're not Hollywood A-list actors.
Yeah, like George McKay, who played Schofield. I've seen him in other movies, but if you asked me what his name was, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah.
I had to look at the paper again after saying it 5 times in this video already.
But you're right. When Blake was dying, that was on point. And I thought when his brother heard the news that he was dead, I thought that was on point too.
And he said, "You'll know who my brother is. He looks like me." And the actor actually did kind of look like Dean Charles Chapman. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Really like the movie. Hope you guys can see it. If you did already watch it, we would love to hear your feedback down in the comment section. Let us know what you did like about it. Let us know what you didn't like about it. Did we miss anything? If we did, please let us know. Thanks, guys, for watching. I really appreciate it. If you do want to see us do more movie reviews like this, give us some suggestions on possible movies that we could do. There are tons of big movies coming out soon in theaters, and I'm willing to go see them if Jason is, and of course we'll make videos like this. So if you want to see videos like this, please let us know. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you're having a good day, and we'll see you in the next movie review. Adios.